How you doing out there? It's me, Tigger. I am Darkwing Duck. It's me, Bonkers, the Bobcat. All right, y'all, this is Ray, your favorite Firefly. It is I, Hondo Onaka. My name is Jim Cummings, and welcome to Toon'd.
Welcome to Toon'd with Jim Cummings here on the Four Finger Discount Network. I am Brendan Dando, joined right now by producer Chris.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
We're joined by the man who's been marrying Peg since 1992. It is Mr. Jim Cummings. How are you, sir?
Hello. Very good. Life is good, and so is Peg, and Peg, and Peg.
Now, of course, we are here today to do a bit of a deep dive on Goof Troop, one of my... No, it actually is my favourite Disney afternoon show of all time. But before we get into Goof Troop and all that fun stuff, Thanksgiving coming up, so happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners out there. What are you two gentlemen doing for Thanksgiving this year?
Oh, thank you for asking. We're going to find an innocent bird and show it a horrible demise, and then make a swell meal out of it.
The way Pete would be proud.
Yeah. No, we're gonna have some fun.
Aren't you gonna go play some craps and stuff at Vegas? Isn't that what you're gonna do?
I don't know. Well, it depends on how bad that bird is. No, that was a bad joke. But but I'll be trying to make my world famous dressing. So that's
world famous dressing. So, Chris, is it actually worthy of the name world famous dressing, or?
Absolutely. It's the perfect moisture. It's the perfect texture. It's fabulous.
So, dressing for the meat or for the salad? What
for the bird? In the bird, out of the bird. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So we have to hear about this now. Don't tell us the secret recipe, but like what goes into it? What's so special about it?
Well, my secret ingredient is bread. That's all. Okay, maybe some onion, maybe some onion, a little bit of salt, maybe optional.
Les oignons.
Les éléments roulés, and then you drive it around New Orleans a couple times, and it comes out really well.
Who taught you the recipe? Like Mama Cummings or?
Oh yeah, my mom did. Yeah, and then I just sort of refined it, and every now and then you'll throw in some mushrooms or something, and little whatever the local flavor is. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
All right, Chris, and you are also not going to be home for Thanksgiving, are you? Or is it next week you're getting away?
Well, I'm bypassing Thanksgiving this year because I'm leaving to Japan on Monday, so I didn't want to have back-to-back travel dates. So I'm just taking it easy. I'm probably going to go see some friends and take it easy. Yeah. Have a little turkey, a little ham, some mac and cheese.
Is turkey the one thing you have to eat on Thanksgiving? Can you go with it? You don't have to? No? You have to? You have to. Okay.
Yeah. Do you guys have Thanksgiving down under?
No, we do not. No. We have nothing to give thanks for, so.
Yeah.
Is there anything similar?
No, we don't at all. No, we have. You have 1st of July, so that's Australia Day for us. We have nothing Thanksgiving. I feel like now, though, or definitely now, the Black Friday sales are a big thing. It's just they've taken the Black Friday sales, but we don't actually have Thanksgiving, but we have Black Friday sales, and they've already started. They start them like last week.
Our overlords, Amazon, have put that on us.
Yes, it really has. Yeah, but I think we're just very grateful to just live in Australia in general. We're just happy all the time.
Everyone has their own beach.
Exactly right. In the backyard.
What about Anzac Day?
Anzac Day, that's sort of like a day of remembrance. Yeah, I guess you give thanks on that because you remember those who've fought. Yeah, but it's more of a day of remembering the soldiers and giving thanks. But it's not a similar kind of thing to giving thanks like you do Thanksgiving. But
Gotcha.
Any excuse to eat turkey, though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it was when the Pilgrims and the Native Americans got together and realized they could get along peaceably, and they traded recipes, and next thing you know, there was this big old bodacious meal there, and so they gave thanks.
And is it just me, or I swear Christmas gets advertised earlier and earlier every year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, spoiler alert. The kids put up the Christmas tree last weekend at our house.
That is insane. When I was growing up, it was like right after Thanksgiving. The weekend after Thanksgiving is when you put up the Christmas tree. Now it's the weekend after Halloween.
Yeah, as soon as that candy's out of the way, it's just straight into Christmas presents and Christmas decorations, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it.
I mean, I'm all for Christmas. I love Christmas. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys love Christmas? Or?
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
And speaking of Christmas, for our lovely supporters on Patreon here on the Toon'd Patreon channel, we're throwing up a poll of various Disney Afternoons Christmas specials, and we're going to be doing a special exclusively for Patreon on whatever the patrons decide. So it might be a Winnie the Pooh Christmas special or a Goof Troop Christmas special or Chip and Dale, whatever they select in their poll. We'll be doing a special bonus little recap review commentary of that episode as well, which is only available on the Toon'd Patreon channel, so you can support the show and get access to a bunch of exclusive Jim Cummings goodness on there.
Yeah.
But of course today we are here to talk about Goof Troop. I'm very excited for this. This is the one when I sort of even pitched this podcast, I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast just so I can talk about Goof Troop. Because I just love Goof Troop that much. And I think you're the same, Chris, right? I think it's a different feeling when we're talking about these shows we grew up with. It's just it brings out the best in us. It's just so great to look back and remember it.
This was definitely my favorite. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the theme song? Because the theme song, like, honestly, listeners, you weren't aware of this, but Chris and I both, when we were setting up, we're just both going, ba-da-la-ba-ba-loo-bop, yeah. We just kept singing it.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to sing, the theme song, isn't it?
Yes.
It sure is.
It is. It's bubbling. It's popping.
I want to hear Jim sing the theme song one day. We need to make that happen.
Okay. Yeah. Or not.
Yeah.
or maybe a song that I actually did sing.
Yes.
Okay, you didn't sing that one. Okay, you picked out of 90 songs that I did sing, you picked one. He didn't sing this one.
We've already heard you sing those ones.
We've heard you sing those, yeah. Yeah.
You're living in the past, Jim. You're living in the past.
Yeah, thank God. It's nice back here.
We just did a commentary exclusive for Patreon of the pilot of Goof Troop. Everything's coming out goofy. And we touched on a few of these things that we're going to touch on again in this podcast. But basically, I was just saying on that, Goof Troop reminds me of Saturday mornings here in Australia, because here in Australia, we didn't get the afternoon shows. We got them on a Saturday morning on a show called Saturday Disney. And whenever I think of Saturday Disney, I immediately think of the Goof Troop theme and just sitting there with a bowl of cereal, dad out the front mowing the lawn, just Saturday morning here in Australia.
Okay, what kind of cereal was it? Like a cereal we would know here, or was it?
Well, if it was a Saturday, I would have been having probably Fruit Loops or maybe Cocoa Pops.
Oh, so you were a health nut.
Yes,
okay,
of course
good.
I was. Yes.
Yes.
Wait, speaking of cereal and the 90s, do you remember when there used to be toys in cereal?
Remember when there was toys in packets of chips as well?
Yeah, and Cracker Jack as well.
Chips. We did not have that.
Really? Well, we had these things.
Have that.
So you had.
I do
Pogs,
not remember
right?
that at least.
So you had Pogs.
Pogs.
We had these things called Tarzos, right? And they used to get them. They used to put them in packets of chips. So you have to buy packets of chips to collect them all. And we had like Simpsons Tarzos and Looney Tunes Tarzos and things like that, and Space Jam Tarzos, and they were a thing. And of course, then the PC police came out and went, well, you're promoting that, unhealthy habits to children by putting things in potato chips. So they stopped it and ruined the fun of ruined childhood for the future generation.
Yeah, I don't remember chips, but I definitely remember the cereal. The cereal, man, we had Power Rangers, Pokemon, Disney Afternoon, everything. It was
Well, whenever I'll do conventions, I will always sign 3 or 4 half dozen, or at least a half dozen, of different ones. Now this one, I got this in a Rice Krispie. This was in a Rice Krispie box, and I had to, and I bought 4 until I got to Bonkers. But I finally got Bonkers. And I said, "Oh, that's great," and I signed them, and they were little chips of cereal on them. It's a great, beautiful thing. Yeah.
Some of the most expensive collectibles now are the ones where, for example, you had to buy like 5 boxes of the cereal, cut the coupon out, and send away for it. Because you can't get those things anymore, of course, because you can't send away for them now. But if you have some of those collectibles where you just have to send away for them, they're worth a mint now.
Oh, I bet.
Because I was talking to a Simpsons collector recently, and he's got like some Simpsons thing that you had to send away for, like the little 3-eyed fish from The Simpsons. And he had to like buy all these boxes of cereal or whatever, cut out the coupon, send them away. And now that it's worth like over $1,000, just this little toy, because you just can't get them anymore.
Dang. And that was actually funny on the deep dive episode we were just watching, on the commentary episode we were watching on Patreon. It was funny how PJ, literally all the toys in his room, he wouldn't touch because his dad said, Jim. His dad said they were all collectibles and that they couldn't be taken out of the packages. And that was 30 years ago. That was 30 years ago, and I just find it funny how it just holds up so well today, even better today, I'd say.
Yeah,
100% does. I feel like people weren't talking about it as much back then. Like when you had toys, you played with them. When we were growing up. Now Now you buy 3. You buy 1 to display, 1 to play with, and 1 to put away in storage in case it goes up in value.
I won't be doing it to the camera now, but I've got my original Johnny Rebel Canyon. There's something else you wouldn't be able to say. Cannon, sorry. And it shot real little balls. It was a little, sort of like an old cartoon cannon but it was based on the Civil War cannons.
Oh yeah.
And it shoots balls. And I've got the ramrod, and it works. So it's 56 years old. No, about 60 years old, and it works. So there. They don't build them like they used to. And
wait, did they call the Union Army Johnny Rebs?
No, that was the Southern.
That was the Southern.
Yeah, the Union Union guys were the Union Jacks, I think.
I have no idea what these toys are. Obviously, they weren't
Or damn
in Australia.
Yankees.
But what were they? They were just promoting just Civil War.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, well, you can't beat a good Civil
Go to
War
Civil War,
promotion.
kids.
Yeah, well, they have Civil War reenactments, and I've never understood that.
They're a lot of fun, though. I'm sure you've been to
It'd be fun to
one.
watch.
Yeah. Have you ever been to one? No?
No, I've never been.
I'm actually really surprised by that.
Yeah, me too. You'd think I would have.
I feel like Jim just seems like the kind of guy that would be in there, just in and amongst it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. My luck, I'd be General Custer. He did not fare well in his last battle.
It's funny because I do a South Park podcast and we just reviewed the episode where they take the Mickey out of Civil War reenactments. So it's just weird how it just sort of just tied in.
No, wow.
Of course. But we're here to talk about Goof Troop now. As I say, one of my favourite shows. Jim, when you think of Goof Troop, I like to sort of start this way. What are your first initial memories of Goof Troop? When someone says Goof Troop to you, what do you think of?
Oh boy, a license to just go crazy and have a lot of great fun. Ginny McSwain was a director, and Bob Taylor was one of the producers, and among others, Ed Wexler and different people, Mark Zaslav. And we had so much fun because, it was, first of all, it was putting Goofy, a character everybody knew, into a completely different setting. I mean, when you thought of Goofy, you did not think father figure. That's for sure. And Pete, you kind of did, because he had enough bluster to throw his weight around and everything. And it was just a great little blend because you put the two together. And no, I don't know what happened to Mrs. Goofy, or if there was one. But Pete was there, and he had his family next door, and it was a lot of fun, because there was always friction between them no matter what. And so we whenever, we needed something to happen, just put the two of them together. And I just realized we were counting, and Pete was in every single show. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, Goofy missed out on one. Apparently, you're saying someone at a convention pointed out to you that you're in all of them, and Goofy missed out on one episode of his own show. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was probably his evil twin was in it.
I think like Goofy is like the face of the show, but I think the show kind of revolves around Pete though more. Like without Pete, the show doesn't work.
I think so too. No, I don't. But but I'll take it. Well, I don't know if that's it, but I mean, thank you. But Peter Pan doesn't get to be the hero without Captain Hook.
Right.
True.
And they say, like series or movies are made off the villain, the better the villain. I mean, how many
Star Wars
Darth Vader costumes do you see? You don't see, that many Luke Skywalkers.
Yeah. I mean, just the villains are just cooler in general, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And you've played quite a bit, Jim.
I've played many a villain.
Well, Pete's the original Disney villain.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He really
and we're
is.
just talking, on the, might have been off the air, maybe on the commentary, I'm not too sure, but Pete, I believe, if you read any of the reports online, is actually the longest recurring Disney character of all time, which is a pretty remarkable thing. So when you first got the role of, was this, obviously this was the first time you voiced Pete, was for this show, right? You hadn't voiced Pete before
correct.
this.
That's right.
Did that sort of sink in, that how big of a deal Pete was, or did that not really mean much to you in like the late 80s or also the early 90s? Do you think the longer you've been the character, the more you sort of dawned on you, wow, this is a monumental character?
Well, yes, it definitely percolated over the years. I the thing is, it was kind of similar with what happened with Pooh. Pete hadn't been around in a good long while, and when he was around, he was kind of doing one-offs, and he was, like the cartoon before the movie, or the occasional. I think they did one or two shorts, prior to, and then we came back in with the three Musketeers, and Pete played the villain in that. And, that natural synergy or whatever you want to call it, the chemistry between Pete and the gang, and be it Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse or Goofy, he was always there to provide the friction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a natural thing. And I don't know that he had been around a lot. Maybe one or two, maybe a Halloween special, perhaps, prior to Goof Troop. And then, boom.
Goofy was the same. He hadn't been really in all that much for a while, had he?
That's right. Yeah, well, he just did the shorts.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of like specials or Christmas special or something like that, but nothing prominent like Goof Troop. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, the one Christmas special we did do with Pete, and this is when Pete was dark brown. He was like dark chocolate brown. He wasn't even black then. And he was a Christmas tree salesman. And he was trying to hose down Goofy to buy this terrible tree. Oh, you'll just have to rent it and buy it. But it's a pretty good, actually, yeah, it is coming up on Christmas, yeah. So watch that show and let us know what you think.
Surely you couldn't have had any idea just how much work you were going to get out of this role of Pete, right? Because Pete hadn't really been in all that much for a while. But he's become like the most recurring villain in Disney now, really, over the last, say, 30 years. Well,
yeah, there's a fairly popular video game or computer game series, Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
And he's featured rather prominently in that. He's like his second in command villain, if you will. Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty is the evil queen, and he is her fierce minion. So Pete's been around.
Yeah.
And I don't know the year. I would think it would have to be the 20s, right?
It was the 20s when he first premiered, when he first debuted, yep.
Yeah, had to be. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's coming. I think he's like 3 years off of being what's it called when you the 100 years when you're public domain.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Would he become public domain now? Is that how it works? Even if Disney created him 100 years?
No, because Disney didn't have to buy him. He was Disney's.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like Mickey Mouse, like Pooh and Tigger. They were acquired. Yeah. Nobody from Disney
from A.A. Milne.
A.A. Milne. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is Winnie the Pooh? So how is Winnie the Pooh public domain and Pete won't be then?
Well, they bought it for X amount of 100 years, I think, wasn't it? Maybe.
No, but Winnie the Pooh, the original series, is now public domain. Yeah.
It's because it wasn't created by Disney.
Okay. So with the character, because he's not just a villain in like Kingdom Hearts, he's a villain in like the Mickey and the Roadster races, like the kids shows, and he was the villain in the Chippendale film. So there's all these different versions of Pete as a villain.
Oh yeah,
he's a pretty diverse character, really, isn't he?
Absolutely. Well, in the Mickey and the Roadster racers, when they would go racing all around the world, there would be an Italian Pete, a Mickey the Mouse. How are you doing? And then they'd go to France and there'd be a Frenchman. Well, Mickey, I can see that you're here trying to win this race. And it was still just Pete being Pete. And I'm gonna run out of accents here.
Wait, that's fascinating to me. So, what's the approach that you take when you have to do a character voice in accent?
Well, I don't know. Now I'll never be able to do it again. Thanks, Chris.
Well, for Italian, he has to do the hand. He's doing the hand gesture the entire
time. Well, the first thing you do is you start talking like Pete. And the next thing you know, you're over there in Ireland. And you're in Dublin and you're walking down the street. And I think that's how you do it.
That's incredible to me. That's incredible.
I need to hear an Australian Pete. Can you do an Australian Pete?
Well, now, hold on there, pal. I'll just have to say,
Give me a strike. Give me a... He kind of comes out, he turns into Monterey Jack, I think. Two right there, Gidget. You know. Yeah, but Pete's a little more guttural.
Yeah.
Good
You're
on
right, though,
you,
Chris. It's
mate.
incredible. Like watching just Jim sort of doing the voice, and you just see just completely just transform into a different accent. It's amazing to watch.
It's not a pretty sight. Don't try it at all.
So let's go back. So you'd already done several shows already for Disney Afternoons. I mean, you'd done Winnie the Pooh as well, and you'd done Tailspin, Darkwing Duck had already been out at this point, Chippendale. So when did you first hear of Goof Troop?
Boy, when somebody wrote it, I think, Bob Taylor, I think we should blame him.
The show premiered in 92. How long before it was on TV? Do you think, was it like an 18-month
Got to be a year. Oh, yeah, always at least a year.
Always
You know,
like a
from,
year,
I mean, if not more, you know,
Yeah.
I would say 15 months would be a better bet. Like recording first day to sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
It's got to be over a year, like 15 months. Safe bet.
I'm always intrigued. So basically, you're working on all these Disney afternoon shows, and do they just sort of come up to you and go, "Hey, we've got another idea," or is it a case of you just have to wait till your agent pitches something to you?
Well, they send out the sides, they send out the plots, the character breakdowns to every agency, you know, and then that agent goes, all right, oh, you might be good at this, you might be good at that, you might be good at that, and they just pass it around, and then they cast the show. The writers start writing, and they all get to know each other. It's like we were saying earlier, the pilot episode, quote unquote, is probably the 10th or 12th one that we recorded, because they had to kind of get to know, the writers got to know the characters as the actors as their characters, and they can kind of weave it in together and make it a little more cohesive.
Well, I have a question for you. I mean, we've kind of been doing these episodes, you know, of the deep dives kind of in chronological order, you know, with the Disney Afternoon and getting more and more recent. Mm-hmm. By this point, this is one of the newer episodes, I mean, the newer series, excuse me, that you were involved in. By this time, you know, we talked about this on the Rescue Rangers episode. They're kind of reusing the same voice actors over and over. When a new series comes out, did you have a good idea that like, okay, I'm going to be in this one, or I'm going to have a big shot to get this one?
Well, you know, I don't think that it didn't quite work like that. I mean, I had to do the same auditions as everybody else did.
Of course.
You know,
yeah.
but everybody, they already knew, how should I put it? I know that I was cast for this role or that role or this role or that role, because on this show there are going to be 2 mailmen and a race car driver, and so we got Cummings to take at least half of that off our, you know, and so you're hired for this character, but since this character floats in and floats out, there were characters that would do that in like even in Bonkers. Frank Welker was Fall Apart Rabbit. Well, he was in every third episode, but he was in every episode anyway because he was playing another character.
Right.
And it's like with me and Chippendale's Rescue Rangers and Fat Cat and Professor Nimnall. So and you know, obviously Monterey Jack with me and Peter Cullen. And so I think I mean, it wasn't, although Jim Magon, my buddy, he made a joke one time when I was visiting Disney TV animation, and we're walking down and we're like halfway through. How many were shows on Disney animation? 10, or 8, or all together, like Darkwing, Tailspin, individual titles. Anyway, we're like halfway through, and he jokingly said, "Oh, by the way, everybody look over here. This is my friend Jim Cummings. He's going to be in every show that we ever do, just every series, every episode of every series. Jim Cummings, what else? I think that's it. Anyway, go get back to work." and everybody clapped, and we all high-fived, and it was just silly. Then they went back to work, apparently. And so did I.
Because Chris is right there, because you were saying you all auditioned for the same roles all the time, but they picked the same people all the time. So surely, like, Chris, you'd have to agree, surely they had the same people in mind when they were writing these characters, right?
Well, I think it's like we talked about on the last deep dive that we did on the Rescue Rangers deep dive, from an investment standpoint from Disney, you know, like they're investing. What did we say? There was like $23 million invested in Rescue Rangers or something like that.
Yeah.
And from an investment standpoint, if you know, show business is just as much business as it is show.
Oh yeah.
So from an investor side, I mean, you know, why not go with the talent that we know that can deliver?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they keep recycling the same voices over and over, because it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, you want to hedge your bet. That's for sure. Because, you know, the money you're wasting or not wasting is the same if it's a sure thing or if it's a flop. They still cost the same.
Yeah.
You're right, though, Chris. This was one of the last ones, and Bonkers was the one after this. I'm pretty sure there weren't many after Bonkers. Jim, was there a reason that they just ended the Disney Afternoons sort of concept? Because they seemed to be going so well. It was all Disney was backing. They were putting so much money behind it. And then there was just sort of like none for a while.
Yeah. Well, I know that the fact that they bought ABC figured into it, because here in Los Angeles, it was on an independent station. It's channel KTW, I forget what it is, but it's Channel 9.
4?
You know, it's not ABC or HBO. It's not, you know, one of the big networks. So I think that might have had something to do with it. You know, they bought ABC and they can't even, and they have to feed some other network, you know, that they don't make bagrillions from. I mean, you know, there's only two reasons things happen: love and money, and it wasn't love. This might have been money.
I think it's interesting too, just that we're on the subject of like business talks, is, you know, we're talking about, you know, cinematic universes these days and how Disney has acquired, you know, Marvel and the Star Wars franchise and everything like that. And in a way, you know, Pete, the character, was kind of in his own cinematic universe, crossing over between all these different cartoon shows, even to this day, you know?
And not just TV shows, movies, video games, everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you just have to imagine if the cinematic universe was a thing back in the early 90s, all these shows would have been crossing over all the time. Feels like a wasted opportunity when you look back now 30 years later, but it would have been nice and cool to have seen all these characters sort of living in the same universe.
Yeah, I got a kick out of that big, long 100-year celebration show.
Yeah.
It was hard to follow.
And actually, that makes me think of another question for you, Jim, is when you voice the same character for different series, do you have a different approach to it?
Yes and no, because we did, you know, during the Goof Troop times, Pete was the Weisenheimer, bit of a bully, and definitely he was in the shorts, you know, big Weisenheimer and definitely a bully. And when we started in on Mickey Mouse at Funhouse, we did like 4, Mickey and the Roadster Racers, Mickey's Funhouse, Mickey's, you know, popsicle stand.
Kid shows.
On and on, kid shows. And you had to dial them back. In fact, I remember, I don't know if I spoke on this before, but I'd just come out there and I'd say, "What are you doing there, you crazy mouse? Get over here." And they'd go, "Okay, this is for 4-year-olds. Say, hey, what you doing over there, Mickey?" You know, and so calm him down. You know, he wasn't the bully, the guy that kicked Mickey off of a speeding train. You know, we can't do that in this cartoon. So, you know, all these different considerations, and, you know, and they're tailing it to the audience, which
right.
Understandable.
It's funny how times change, though, because, you know, Goof Troop was for the same audience, but you didn't have to dial it back for that, Pete.
Yeah. Well, that was also 30 years ago.
Kids get scared now.
Yeah.
He's yelling at me. He's yelling. Why is he being so mean? But so you land the role of Pete. Did you audition? Obviously, Bill already had the role of Goofy. That was already set in stone. Did you audition for anything? There wasn't really anyone to really audition for on this show, was there? When it comes to the main cast, it was just Pete or nothing for you, really.
Yeah, correct. I had my heart set on being Peg, but it didn't work out. No, I mean, I had dabbled around with Pete, and, you know, he was kind of in my wheelhouse. And
did you know much about Pete before auditioning for the role?
Oh yeah. I mean, everybody did. Yeah. You know, I would watch the not the Disney Afternoon, but all the Disney "The World is a Carousel of Color" from when I was 5. You know, and Davy Crockett was on, and Johnny Tremaine, and I never missed one of them because then they'd always have a lot of times they would have a Mickey Mouse short, and Pete would come in there and be the guest goober, or Pete and Goofy would be in something, and so I had a handle on him. I was aware of him. I knew who he was, but like I said, he was always a tough guy. He was always mean. I'm the kinder, gentler Pete. I'm so happy.
I know you've said in the past that when you're doing a voice like that, that's already been voiced in the past, you try to sort of not copy, but be as close to the original as possible. But with this Pete, though, this was a different version of Pete that we hadn't seen before. So did you feel like there was more freedom to sort of give it your own spin?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Because at really, Pete was a one-trick pony prior to this. Like in the 40s, 50s, name it. He was the guy. Look here, pal. I'm going to clobber you, see? And that's it. That's pretty much it. If Pete was showing up, Mickey was either going to take a licking or, stop him cold, or, Goofy was in trouble. Donald, forget about it. And so you knew that something was up. But when we moved it over to a series, he can't walk around with a baseball bat trying to knock off Mickey's head or Goofy's head, for 22 minutes per show. So they had to turn him into a family man. And now he's a big giant cat with a cute little dog and cat of his own. Don't ask. And go figure. And he's got a cute little daughter and a annoying little kid and a scalding hot wife.
Talking about you or Pete?
Pete and me. Yes. The answer to that is yes.
Wait, just to kind of go off the rails here, as a kid, I was very attracted to Peg, and I'm sure there was other kids out there that had that same thing. It was kind of like a Jessica Rabbit deal. Have you heard that in people coming up to you?
No.
So it's just me.
I see it though.
But I could see it. Oh yeah, I can definitely see it. And for that matter, he and Bonkers, they both had really cute girlfriends. And Nancy Cartwright was my daughter with April Winchell, and she was Fondeer for Bonkers the Bobcat, and she played Fondeer, the cute little starlet, and it was just cute as can be.
You were somewhat of a ladies' man when it came to those Disney afternoon shows, weren't you?
Apparently so. And yeah, Darkwing Duck, absolutely. Morgana Macabre, played by
Was this the first time you played a married man in an animated show?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
not many.
Was that unique when it came to the chemistry with April?
Well, no, it was unique. We had to, because she was pregnant. We had to, she was pregnant with Nancy Cartwright.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's reminded me of a terrible, dirty joke that I can't tell.
Why?
But it had to, because it's a dirty joke. And then the psychiatrist said to Mickey, "No, I didn't say that. I said she's goofy."
Just do it in your Mike Tyson voice, and it'll be all fine.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Never mind. Pasadena.
No. Mike can get away with a lot, but I'm not him.
The joke might ruin a lot of childhood, so maybe we should leave it.
Yes, it is. Yes, starting with mine.
How do we get here? Oh yeah, Peg, she's hot. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
But like with April, so you had a great chemistry there with April with Peg here. Mm-hmm. Do you think because of the chemistry here, that just evolved and is the reason you sort of ended up married again on Bonkers?
I thought it was because we were both so irresistibly talented that we were the only people for the job. But it could have been the fact. But it could have been the fact that it's like, well, they already know each other. Okay, that's fine with me. Either way, I'm fine. And the checks have cleared at this point, so
they have.
So
indeed.
we're both very happy.
So while we're on the topic of just marriage, and one thing that fascinates me about Goof Troop is the fact that it was pitched and end up becoming a show about a single father, that's not really a popular trope at the time in the early 90s for an animated
that's
or
true.
live action.
Was Darkwing
You're
Duck?
right.
He was a single father, was he not? Darkwing Duck.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's true.
I'm good at that.
But he was a duck. I suppose
Yeah.
Goofy's a dog. But as I was saying in the commentary, because of the setting, it felt more realistic, didn't it? Even though there were still these, dogs and cats and whatnot, and there was all this craziness happening because it was
sure.
set in suburbia.
Well, yeah, it was
As
more
kids,
of a suburban, right?
Yeah, it felt more real, like what Chris was saying. Yeah, the
I
single
agree.
father setup.
What was your reaction to that when you first read it?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Heck, I thought it was cool because I got to work with April, and she was great. And I thought it was an interesting take because it helped Dee purely villainize Pete. If he's a family man and he's got this little 4-year-old girl running around and his young 10-year-old son and his wife was a calming influence to the extent that when she wasn't yelling at him. And so I thought it kind of softened him, made him a little more readily accessible to everybody, to Pete, because prior to that, he would just come in and knock over the coffee table and chase Mickey or Donald or Goofy all around the room with a sword or a frying pan or do whatever, try to throw him off the cliff. But this time he had to come up and show up and have some opinions, and he had to get up and go to work. It was something that people don't usually do in cartoons.
That's true.
And, so it was kind of cool.
You're right, though, because we just watched that pilot, and it's very wacky and cartoony, and all the shenanigans that Pete's getting up to try and stop Goofy. If he was just this single guy living next door, just this grumpy old man, it'd be very unlikable. But having him married with a daughter, it just makes him far more grounded, doesn't it? It makes it feel less super villainy and more just like a grumpy man.
Yeah, you're right, and I think that's what they needed from him in this show too. They didn't need a guy coming in on a spaceship or a fighter pilot coming in to zap everybody. It just needed a sufficient thorn in the side. And, as we've seen, the funny part of it is he's there to give friction in a sense to Goofy. And he kind of gets his butt kicked on a regular basis. He's not good at it. He's, Goofy kind of gets the edge on him.
I think it's very important that Peg wears the pants in the relationship as well, because as grumpy and as loud as he is and as angry as he is, at the end of the day, Peg still runs the house, and she's not intimidated by him. She just tells him what's what, and he goes, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah. Well, she's smarter than him, and he knows it, and he's smart enough to know it.
Yes.
So I can relate.
When I was watching Goof Troop, I was getting similar vibes to. Did you guys Chris? Did you ever watch the show Dinosaurs, the Jim Henson Dinosaurs with Earl Sinclair?
I did, yeah.
I was getting Earl Sinclair vibes with Pete and Fran, his wife. Just
That's very true.
Just the grumpy buffoon of a husband whose wife is smart, intelligent, and clearly wears the pants. And the ship would not work. We would not sail without the wife there. But he likes to think that he runs the show when really it's Peg here. Same with Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
But we were touching on earlier with Goofy though. We don't know whether there ever was a Mrs. Goofy. Was that ever? Did you ever ask that question when they were pitching the show? Like, how does Goofy have a son? Like when they said Goofy's got a son, Max. Did you ever go, how? Why? Was there ever a backstory that they were considering implementing into the show about an ex-wife or whatever, but they decided not to? What was the idea there?
I remember bringing it up once. I said,
Yeah.
Is his ex-wife is she with us anymore? Is she going to be here? She goes, Nope, she is not going to be in the show. Oh, okay. But what if he, nope. Too much, you have to explain too darn much. And I think they're right. First of all, who the hell would marry Goofy? So,
Yeah.
that there's a insurmountable problem.
It's a question to bring up because we posted on social media this morning, asked for some questions for Goof Troop. And man, oh man, it seems that 3 out of 5 people want to know, why wasn't Peg and Pistol, why were they not in a Goofy movie? Now, do you know why that was?
I'd be curious about that myself.
Yeah, what was the reason? Was it just a schedule conflict? Was it they didn't want to...
No, there's no such thing as a schedule conflict. You just record it next week.
Yeah.
Unless you're, Mel Gibson and you're, in Canada or Switzerland for 6 months, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know, and I think it was because usually it's just the story dictates, and they trim it down to the conflict's going to be here with this person against that person, and these two guys are going to be the good guys. These 3 or 4 guys are going to be the bad guys, and then everybody around is the periphery. And next thing you know, there was no room to sit around the campfire or go out and grill hot dogs in the backyard with the gang, with the with April and the rest of them. It just ended up not being necessary to tell that story of that movie.
Okay. So I mean, I love the movie, but it's always just felt like that's the one thing that's held it back from truly feeling like a Goof Troop movie was the fact that Peg and Pistol weren't in the in the film.
I agree.
I just want to speak briefly, looping back to the popularity. Like, obviously, me and Brendan were huge fans of the show growing up, and just doing my research, it was kind of in the beginning era of releasing VHS tapes, and I think that might have something to do with it. Do you remember the releases on video and how that impacted this show?
Yeah, I do. And to this day, I'll sign 2 or 3 VHS covers of those old the movies themselves and the shows. And I don't know, because it was so this was right around then. I think video was out a little prior too, though.
It was, but I feel like it was becoming popular in the early to mid 90s.
Yeah,
especially direct-to-video sequels and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in fact, I think that has a probably a stronger footprint. Those direct-to-videos, because they were Disney almost. I think they invented them.
Yeah,
I think it was the Aladdin sequel was the first.
It was
big
Aladdin.
one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We did the whenever they would take a movie and put it to serial, like on a put it to strip, like they did with Aladdin and lots of other movies. They would always do like a 3 or 4 part intro, like it'd be like the premiere. And it would be, I don't know, an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes long. And it was just 3 episodes cut up that they were going to introduce the series with anyway. And they spliced it together and said, no, this is a direct-to-TV movie, wink, wink. And then they'd play that. And then 2 weeks later, they'd cut it back up again and start up the series. And then it was on serial 5 days a week. So I think they kind of invented that little genre there.
Yeah. And just while we're on the subject of VHSs, just a little factoid for the viewers out there. One of the reasons that Blockbuster and movie rental companies were so popular back then is because a VHS to buy would cost in the mid 80s to early 90s $100, which was a lot of money back then.
$90.
Yes, which was a lot of money. Yes, and that's why rental industries were so popular back then, is because people didn't have the money to spend $100 on a single movie. And so that's why that business model kind of took off, was you had to rent because you couldn't afford to buy, 5 of your favorite movies is $500.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same with not just movies, though. Sorry, Jim. Not just movies, though, but just even TV shows. They'd go, here's a Christmas-themed VHS of 4 Christmas-themed cartoon episodes of Winnie the Pooh, and they put it on a VHS and charge you $50 for it. You think, we used to pay that much money for 4 single episodes of a TV show. It's amazing how the world's changed.
Oh, yeah. And people complain about $7.99 a month for streaming service.
Well, nothing comes out and gets more expensive, that's for sure. Except for cars.
So when you you auditioned for Pete, was it a similar deal to, like, did you get it pretty quickly, or was it a yet to come back? Do you know anyone else who went for the role of Pete? Any notable names?
Well, one fella who, it probably wouldn't be wise to say his name. He had done him once or twice.
Okay.
And thought that he was in. He was in. And So of course, everybody, the usual suspects, we all go out and we audition for this, that, and the other thing. I think the only thing they had nailed down was Bill for Goofy, so everything else was up for grabs. And I went and auditioned, and I listened to some of the old VHS or whatever it was, bits of Pete, and just went in and auditioned just like I do for any other given anything. And they called me up and told me, well, you got the role of Pete.
Wow.
And so I said, okay. Tied for first place as the oldest Disney character or whatever it may be. You just corrected me. But that's cool. I'll take it.
And just for our viewers, who is he tied with for the oldest Disney character?
Well, I guess Oswald Rabbit, before Mickey was a mouse, was contemporary with him. I'd have to really look that up. You know what? You guys can look that up.
I'm looking it
for
up
us
as
and
we speak. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Okay, so
I don't know if he was lucky, but he was Oswald. But he was definitely Oswald, and he wasn't a mouse, and he had long ears. And when you go to Disneyland, you'll see in the archives section of whatever the heck that thing is over there, I'm really articulate. You'll see pictures of him. And if you Google him or just ask your phone or your neighbor, and there he is.
You're right, Jim. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was the first character created by Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see,
but I think the what they say with Pete is the oldest recurring character because Oswald doesn't exist anymore, where Pete's still to this day. So when you think of characters who still exist and have been recurring over generations, Pete is the oldest,
and rightly so.
And rightly so. Yes.
Well, that's cool. That's good to know.
As we were touching earlier, though, so this is a different version of Pete that we'd never seen before. Suburban Pete with a wife and a child, and Goofy's coming back to his life to get a son. So, what elements did you take from previous people, and what did you bring it to the character yourself?
Well, you just wanted to just make sure he sounded alike, sounded right, like the original. Yeah. But you had to defang him, like I said. It was just, I couldn't keep him angry at the top of his lungs, when he's talking to his 4-year-old or whatever.
So do you think it was more of so how do you define the Jim Cummings Pete compared to the Pete that came before? Just you're not as angry?
No, mine's much, much better.
just better.
Thank you. No. Well, it's just those same differences. I mean, it's kind of like the same aspect. It's, he just can't walk around mad. That would be the Jim Cummings Pete. I think mine would be more curmudgeon or grumpy old man lives at the end of the street as opposed to villain.
Yes.
There's a big difference. So that's the way I see it.
Something you just said just made me think of a question. How long do you have to listen to a previous character for when you need to match their voice?
Gosh, I think it varies. It varies. But not long, because I'll know, in 3 minutes if I'm gonna if I'll end up being viable, or if it's like, no, no, never mind that one. No, I'll pass. It's just, it's too high, it's too low, or whatever, or something. But if it's kind of in my wheelhouse, I'll know it. Almost right away. And then if I give it a shot, I think I told you before, I thought I nailed Eeyore. I was so sure I was Eeyore, but I ended up with Pooh and Tigger, so it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some would say better.
I'm one of them.
Yes.
But, so I don't know. Fun stuff.
We touched on the commentary. So this cast, all-star cast, this show again for another Disney. So what was it like working with Bill Farmer for the first time as a buddy in a show? Because you never really worked with him to this extent.
I've never liked him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a very nice person.
No,
yeah.
no, I'm kidding. No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. And his son's a really good drummer. So see, got that going for you. But no, we've I think we kind of worked together on and off on different things over the years, but certainly since then But back then, we had both just shown up a couple of years before, so there wasn't a big history to have. You know, he wasn't in the business. And in fact, I'll tell you where we met. It was at the Roger Rabbit premiere. And
That's right, because you're both in it, weren't you?
yeah. And I was bullet number 2, and I was a pretty good weasel, pretty prominent weasel. And I wish I had these pictures, because there were pictures of this one big plastic weasel standing in front of Bob Hoskins, and he's covered in gigantic gaffer's tape or masking tape or electrical tape, whatever, gray tape. And we spent the entire friggin' night in Griffith Park. And I'm doing weasel voices. What are you doing there, Eddie Valiant? Come on over here. You know, and all this stuff. And there's Bob Zemeckis, and I'm going, this is my first job. It's a big major motion picture. You know, and so, and of course they threw it all out. So, you know, that whole scene. Yeah, and all of a sudden I had no weasel lines, but thank God for bullet number 2.
Does it still exist, the weasel line? Does it still exist somewhere, that scene?
I don't know. Yeah, I doubt it. I don't know why, but if it does, I'll give you $10 for it. But no, that's where Bill and I met, right there at the premiere.
Yep.
And then the rest is mystery, I guess.
Was this filmed or recorded similar to like Darkwing Duck and all the other shows? Were you all in the room together at the same time?
Which one? Goof Troop?
Goof Troop, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things about it. You know, having everybody there. For the most part, we did.
Including Nancy, because Nancy would have been very busy with The Simpsons, right? So was she always there in the studio with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's only she's still doing one show a week there and one show a week here, so it's not.
Yeah.
Simpsons, they take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because they're a little more, you know, they have a better budget.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, even then, no, she was there. She was there. We were all there. I kind of like that. I mean, I like that so much more. Because if you have an organic response and, you know, the person that's responding to you is there and has the ability to, so it's much better.
Because Goofy was such an established character, like, and Bill had him, like, was there any sort of like nervousness with like just like having to live up to, you know, Bill, he's Goofy, and Peter's such an iconic character, kind of like Winnie the Pooh. You said you weren't nervous with Winnie the Pooh, but is there a slight element, or you just got to go no, this is mine now. I've just got to own this. They've picked me for a reason. Let's do it.
Yeah, I never have that worry.
No,
I mean, I never have. It's not arrogance. It's just.
But you can't really, can you? I guess.
No, well, there you go, pal. I mean, you're not there because they're being charitable.
Exactly.
They've read plenty of people for these roles. Plenty.
Yes.
You know, you're not denying them anything by giving them you.
It's just amazing to think, though, that, you know, like you're saying, so many people auditioned, but just they always go back to that core cast. Just goes to show how much faith Disney had in you guys.
I guess so. I'll take it. Yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah. All right, Chris, should we get into some mailbag questions, do you think?
Let's do it.
I think.
All right, yeah. So we asked the lovely people on Facebook and on Instagram for some questions. I'll start. This one's from Leo Prince. How is it like to play a more civilized version of Pete with him having a family and all? This is from Leo. Leo said he loved all your interactions with the family in particular.
Oh, good. Well, thank you, Leo. And yeah, we were just talking about that. It's kind of nice because it took the onus of Pete, so he just doesn't have to walk around, on 9.9, out of 10 all the time. He doesn't have to go apoplectic and just go, woo, have his head blown off with anger and this and that, because it opened him up to being a frustrated, and I think it was funnier too, to have a frustrated guy who's really not a villain per se in this show, but he's a foil. Yes. And as we have just seen, he usually ends up taking more lumps than Goofy. So, I mean, who's doing who?
All right, Chris, your first question.
All right, this is from Chaos Devin on Instagram. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are Pete's parenting skills?
Oh, I'd say 8.1.
Yeah.
All right, pretty good dad.
What do you think makes him a good father?
Well, he's certainly a good provider, and he almost listens to his kids occasionally. He's a pretty good husband. He's very gentle, and he does all the heavy lifting, or he'll hire someone that does. And he's kind of covering all the bases. He's not going to get Father of the Year, and he may not be running down to be the scoutmaster, but he'll hire someone to do it. So that's not bad. And he shows the family some pretty good vacations. I think we've seen that one little RV that he had with the upper deck pool. You can't beat that. And so he's kind of a Santa dad and a good provider and an upstanding citizen and businessman.
Sure.
This one's from @SwordT40. He says, Pete went from a villain to a grouchy neighbor on this show. His question is, do you enjoy voicing him more as a villainous character, like what you get in the Chippendale films, or do you think a comic relief focused character is more what you prefer?
Oh, the comic relief. Yeah. The others are fine in their place, but you can't you can't keep that up. That's not that's like a one-off. That's like the cartoon before the movie, which is where most of the Pete cartoons lived. But I definitely like him in the sitcom. That's basically what it is. It's a sitcom setting.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, Married with Children.
All right, here's another one from Instagram. How many outtakes did you record for when Pete had his hysterical breakdowns?
Oh boy. No, I don't. No outtakes. They used every darn syllable. No, I don't know. Because sometimes you'll get all worked up and then you'll accidentally. I think he cussed? No, I didn't cuss. That's bullshit. And I'll say something like that. and then they go, okay, we can't use that. Well, all I said. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry.
I need to hear Pete saying bullshit though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to hear that.
Subscribe to Patreon and anyway. Oh, we're gonna make them pay for that one, Brendan. Don't you worry. I got you covered.
We need to get a show called Cummings Cusses.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Oh
yes.
man. Just a side note, that's actually so funny since we've been doing this podcast. Like so many of the people that we've met, their character or the persona that they're known for is often, because we're all people. And so it's so funny to see people just reacting as their normal self. Even when we were at a convention last weekend, and you were like something completely unrelated from the line at the convention, and you were dealing with something and you were like, what the, and then this girl starts laughing and then you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for you to hear that. And she's like, no, it's hilarious, it's just so funny to hear you say that word.
I was taken off guard before because Jim was sitting on the chair looking for his headphones, forgetting the headphones were in the studio, and Jim's response was, oh, fuck me. And I was like, whoa, Jim just said the F word.
Yeah, but I was talking to you, so no, that's not right. Okay. Well, these guys are making this up in America. Or Australia, or wherever.
Jim's never said a dirty word in his life, never.
No.
Except for bother.
That's more bullshit. Yeah.
Is it my turn for a question? I think it is, right?
It is, yeah.
Alrighty. Carl Cashin Carson says, were the voice acting sessions on this show just as dysfunctional like the characters perceived on the show, on the actual show? So were the voice acting sessions as wild as what they appeared on the actual show?
It was controlled chaos, which is what the best sessions are. But I can tell you, one of our favorite things, and if we'll get Bill Farmer on here one fine day, and we'll have this verified, and we would sit, and it was a Fidelity Studios. It was in North Hollywood, and I don't know if it's still there, but it was a room that was kind of set up like a rectangle of microphones, but missing the top. Because there was a glass window there. We're looking through there. There's a director, Jenny McSwain, the producers, the writers, and everybody. And so the actors are all inside. And we're all there. And for one reason or another, Nancy was there. Of course, Dana Hill, April Winchell, myself, and maybe Rob Paulson. He may well have been there. But we're all waiting for Bill to come in. And something happened. He had a flat tire. I don't know. And he said, sorry, come in, excuse me, everybody. And he came in, and she said, all right, well, we can all go in. And he knocked over his microphone stand, his boom stand. It fell into the one next to it. It fell into the one that he took out 4 stands and 2 chairs. and all he did was walk in. That's it.
So he's goofy.
And he's goofy. and if he was here, and we have talked about this, so I'm okay with saying the sweetest lady ever, Lucy Taylor. She and Wayne Allwine were married, Mickey and Minnie Mouse, for many moons. And many moons ago, Bill, Mickey, Minnie, me. Anyway, we're at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. And it was a day for special needs kids. And they had telephones set up with cartoon character pictures. And the kids can go up, and there were dozens of kids there. It was kind of like the Share a Smile Club that I'd been to back in my hometown. And it's, kids with handicaps or what have you. And they come and they can talk to their favorite cartoon character. Pick up the phone and say, hello, Winnie the Pooh. Hello, Tigger. Hello. And so we were stationed up above the courtyard, and it was the darkened windows, so we could stand there and wave at them, and they wouldn't have been able to see us. And they're certainly not going to be looking up there. And if they did, they're not going to see Winnie the Pooh. They're going to see some guy in a T-shirt standing up there. So we were pretty safe. And Bill comes up, and he gets his, and we're all sitting around. There's little coffee tables and Bill gets up and he grabs the phone, and he, bless his heart, he walks right in to a jet black screen. It's off stage, and it engulfs him, just like it would have if had Goofy walked into the room. And he spins around, and he cocoons himself in there and goes, oh! And he falls over backwards, pulls the phone out of the wall, and Lucy Taylor, God rest her soul, Minnie Mouse, she almost peed. I'm pretty sure she had to run to. She says, Billy, you got to stop it. You're going to kill me one of these days. And she goes, and he did that he didn't do that on purpose. It looked like he did, but no, it looked like Goofy. It looked just like Goofy. And I was thinking, man, oh man, this guy, he's a character actor.
So he's a
method actor. A character method actor. And we've had some fun reminiscing with that over the years. I'll see if I can get him to replicate that on some future podcast.
Maybe he didn't audition for the voice. He just walked in and knocked shit over, and they're like, "Oh, we found you."
Oh, there he goes. How bad can he be?
We'll definitely have to get Bill on the show
He's in
at some
character.
point.
Oh yeah, we will.
Speaking of fun times, this one's from Zan080789. What is the funniest moment you had during your recording session with Rob Paulson? I kind of see a father-son slip up with some good jokes occurring.
Oh gosh, probably just Rob and I telling dirty jokes back and forth about his little Susie cream cheese next door. I don't know, but I've worked with Rob so many times that all of our sessions have descended into chaos in one form or another.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like father, like son.
I'm just intrigued by little Susie cream cheese next door.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if it does
PJ.
it for anybody else, but his voice is PJ, and he has a very similar voice as I forget, Carl and Jimmy Neutron.
Carl, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and it makes me sad for some reason. It's such a defeated voice. It kind of makes me sad.
Carl Weezer. Yeah, you're right. Well, I've got my own little mini theory about that, and I've never spoken with it to Rob, but you'll notice that heroes have always got a certain tone in their voice, And if that was music, it would be ba-da-ba-doo-ba-doo, ba-da-ba-ba-da-boo-da-ba-boo. And it sounds like an announcement. It sounds like a proclamation. Whereas the bad guys are kind of sneaking around and they're in a minor key. And that's why, again, that's like, and you know that that's not going to be. There are no ballerinas in this scene. It's like whenever the first time I noticed it was in a show called The Rifleman, and it was an old 60s show, and the theme song was boom doom 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 doom. But whenever the Rifleman was in trouble and the bad guys were sneaking around the barn to kidnap him and get the life, they would play the theme song, but it was in a minor key. You knew something was wrong. And the same goes in, because I tend to think of it, singing, obviously, but dialogue and everything in a musical term, in a rhythmic term. And it's simple, good news is in a major key. And bad news is really not in that good of a key.
So then what?
Yeah.
What key would PJ be in?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so where is he?
What key is that, Jim?
Yeah, that's right. And he's kind of got that damsel in distress, doesn't he? I mean,
I don't know why. It just makes me like sad when I hear his voice, even when he's doing twisted tunes in that voice. It's like, oh, that's like a defeating voice.
Yeah. He's not won a lot of battles. Well, with his dad in one show, and with Jimmy Neutron in the other. So yeah, I think.
How would you explain the dynamic between Pete and PJ?
Well, bully and bullied.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of,
he's
domineering.
He's constantly trying constantly trying to sort of like impress his dad, isn't he? And sort of be the son that he thinks his dad wants him to be. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then he just resigns himself to failure. Well, that was when I was trying to surf. This is when I was trying to, blah blah blah. But he does have some success when it comes to skateboarding. So
yes,
he's not a complete mess. We hope.
All right, we'll do a couple more. I've got a question here. This is from Squill on Twitter. What would Goofy and Pete's favorite drink be to order at a bar?
Well, Pete'd probably just have a beer. Just
a standard beer? Yeah, what brand of beer? Are you a beer man, Jim? I can't see you being a beer man.
I suppose, yeah. I like Mexican beers, not bad.
Okay.
There's a few out there.
Goofy's going some sort of like alcoholic-free cocktail, right?
Well, he doesn't need any. He's who knows? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say shaken, not stirred. Whatever James Bond has, that's what Goofy would have. I'm sure
exactly.
of it.
All right, Chris, let's see us out.
Okay, this one's a good question. It's a little long, but it's a good question. This one is by Make Pete Matter.
Oh,
it's like a movement.
Wait, TT or DD?
Instead of me too, it's Pete too.
Make Pete Matter. Pete is the original Disney villain, and at 98 is the oldest continuing character in the Disney's 100-year history. He played a central role in Goof Troop and the Goofy Movie, and has appeared in every Mickey Mouse show on Disney Junior going on 20 years. He has little to no merchandise available in the parks, in stores, or online. He has no official social media representation, and just this year was added as a costume character at Disneyland, but no other parks. Why do you think Disney chooses to ignore Pete's existence and overlook him in favor of other characters?
Wow. You know what? It never even occurred to me that they were doing this. Yeah. I'm going to have to make some phone calls in the morning. No, and then they'll ignore me. Professionally, though. See, no,
but
that's a good question. I didn't notice that, but I want to know.
You're right, because there aren't many. I think there's like Pete, like Kingdom Hearts merch, but that's about it. There's no other form of Pete merchandise, really.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Is it because they love marketing villains now? Like marketing villains is a big thing, so it's not that. It's not because he's a bad guy. I wonder what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that. Well, they have a shop at Disneyland, and I think it's just all evil witches, isn't it, Chris? Right there when you walk back.
Yeah, that's right.
They've got a
they have
shop for that.
literally all the villains.
Yeah.
Well, Disney villains is now a brand like Disney princesses.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Pete's the original, so.
He is. Yeah. You think they'd be more marketing that, but I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know it.
I'm sure it's to keep money out of Jim's pocket. That's the reason, right?
I know. It's always something. I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of animation.
All right, final one here.
Ouch.
BJ Riggs wants to know, can we hear Pete mimic Goofy's famous chuckle?
Well, let me see there. A yuck.
I used to do that in the show every now and then.
Did you?
Yeah,
and
I think in the episode we just watched.
Did he?
Yeah.
Because he was taking Mickey out of him, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
A yuck. Yeah. Well, gosh. A yuck.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And for everybody listening, you can hear that episode on Patreon.
Yeah.
That's
Cummings
right.
commentary of everything's coming up Goofy the Pilot. What we tend to do is we get the pilot episode of these Disney afternoon shows. I think we've pretty much run through just about all of them now. We have to start doing other episodes, right? What show haven't we
yuck.
done yet? We haven't done Gummy Bears yet or things like that. But
That's true.
we haven't. You know what we haven't done is New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. We need to do that as the pilot episode of that show. And it's funny
I've heard
because
of that.
I believe the pilot episode of that, Jim, is the one you don't like because it's the one they go to the movies and you didn't like that story.
Yeah, it was a weird one,
Yeah,
but that's okay.
that's
but
okay.
you
We'll
get to
pretend
hear
that we
mine.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I do enjoy it. I mean, but it was my first time out. And way back when, and I don't want to spoiler alert, but I wasn't crazy about my Winnie the Pooh back then.
Okay.
I mean, it took like about 8 shows to get going, and I was like, okay, all right, now I'm good.
Oh, that's interesting. We'll dive deeper on that.
Yeah,
We'll review
really.
the episode.
And do you know there's been a lot of demand for Jim to go back and just revisit the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh? Like, people want this. I think we need to somehow work something out in 2024. A Winnie the Pooh based show, revisiting those episodes, because I think of all the characters you do, there's people, that connection to Winnie the Pooh, it's just, there's something
yeah.
about it, mate. There's just, people love it.
No, you're only 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
and then Pooh's coming up after that.
Hope you guys enjoy this little deep dive here of Goof Troop. Now, don't worry, we didn't touch too much on a Goofy movie, but that's because we're going to be saving that for another episode. We're going to be doing a proper deep dive of a Goofy movie and an extremely Goofy movie as well. The direct-to-video sequel, which came about 5 years after. That wasn't anywhere near as successful as that first film, but I do love a Goofy movie, so we're going to be doing an episode on that in the coming weeks. Don't forget, as Chris mentioned, you can support the show on Patreon. You not only get early and ad-free access to this show, so no pesky ads. We get access to exclusive podcasts, including Cummings commentaries, where we go back and revisit the pilot episodes, as we said, of the Disney afternoon shows. We're going to be doing a Christmas special come December. Don't forget to follow us on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for more of the podcast, jimcummingspodcast.com. But for now, Jim, thanks for your time, mate. Do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Brendan. Thank you so much. Producer Chris, we've done it again.
Absolutely.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please like us and love us and give us a big lick on the interwebs. And did I leave anybody out? I don't think so. Thank you.
I think we need to get Pete to send us off, right?
Well, I don't know, pal. I don't think we can afford me.